Hi, I'm Van from Sony, and today we're going to take a closer look at Sony's new Visual Story app. It's time to get the cameras connected to the app. Depending on if you are planning to primarily connect to the venue's Wi-Fi, this might be best to do once you're on site. Let's start by tapping the icon located between the project page and the live icon. It's called the connection icon. The instructions are pretty straightforward, but let's take a look. We've already set up the application. Now, it's time to change the settings of my device and my cameras. First, we'll turn on importing. There's a footnote here that warns you about the increased battery drain during importing, so I recommend connecting a battery bank or charger to your device. Next, you'll need to decide how you want to connect everything together. For ease of use and stability, I recommend connecting through a Wi-Fi access point, like a portable router, a dedicated MiFi device, or an existing event Wi-Fi access point. Keep in mind, if you're sharing an access point with guests, your connection speeds may vary, and some venues may have a login splash page, which you may not be able to access through your camera. You can also use the portable hotspot function on your smartphone or connect via a direct USB-C cable. However, this may limit you on how many cameras you can connect simultaneously, and it may pose some other challenges. For instance, a very small number of alpha cameras can use USB tethering at this time. Next, if you haven't done so, go ahead and connect your smartphone or tablet to the Wi-Fi access point. In my case, I'm using a portable Wi-Fi router, and I've already gotten that set up on my iPad. Next, I'll connect my camera. This may look slightly different depending on your model camera. I'm using an Alpha 7 Mark III with the latest firmware. Now, in the camera menu, I'll navigate to Network, and then down into Wi-Fi, and then finally to Access Point Setting. While the camera is looking, I'll want to find the network that I want to use. I've already got it set up here as Sony VSA. And if there's a password, you'll need to enter it on the next screen. Be sure to turn on priority connection. Once the connection is made, you should see a check mark and a crown next to the SSID. I'll tap Menu a couple of times to back up. And while I'm here, I'll set up the FTP settings. Some cameras can transfer settings via Bluetooth, so just follow the instructions on the app to get paired and transfer the FTP profile. Be careful though, if you've already got some FTP server profiles set up, by default, it wants to overwrite the FTP1 slot if you just click through OK. If you're having trouble or you don't have a compatible model, you can simply enter the settings manually. Open up the FTP transfer function, and then server settings. And then copy the info from the app to the camera. You can leave Secure Protocol off. Make sure that you change the directory hierarchy to same as in camera. And then finally add the user name and password. Can be found here at the bottom of the app. So make sure that the orange dot is next to the profile that you've just set up and hit OK. I like to press up and then select OK. Once I turn on the FTP function, the camera will try to connect to the access point and then to the FTP server in the app. If you're not seeing a connected message, check your settings again. Now, before we leave this menu, I'll go to the next step in the app, which shows me additional settings found here in the camera menu. I'll want to find auto transfer and switch that on, and make sure that I'm sending JPEGs only. It's also a good idea to leave FTP power saving off. Next, on the app, it says that my settings are complete. I can tap the Start Connection Diagnosis at the bottom if I want to test my settings. There's also lots of good explanations to the status icons here too, so be sure to read that if you're not already familiar. Next, I'll exit out of the camera menu and look for the FTP and Wi-Fi icons. You may need to cycle the display button a few times before you see it. They should be solid white, and otherwise, you may need to go back and check your settings. Finally, I can shoot a test picture. It shouldn't take long for the image to show up. If it seems to take a while, make sure that auto transfer is turned on and that you're sending only JPEGs. Some cameras have the option to designate small JPEGs to be sent. The 7 Mark III does not. And since I'm set to RAW and JPEG in the camera, and I plan on editing the RAW files later, I can go in and change the JPEG image size to small to save on both card space and transfer time. At this point, I like to power off the camera and wait 10 seconds for the settings to save. Once we tap Done on the app, we're ready to get shooting. Now keep in mind, at this point, if you change the router or access point that you're using, you may need to update the host IP in your camera's FTP server profile. When you get to the venue and power everything back on, it's a good idea to open the project in the app and then tap on the connection icon. You can go back through the FTP setup wizard or simply tap FTP camera option at the bottom. And here you can check that there isn't a new host IP in the manual settings. Mine's the same, and all of my indicators look good, so I'll start shooting. Now while I'm shooting, I might want to lock the screen of my app to keep it on top and prevent any misoperations. I'll open the menu and then select Prevent Misoperations. And to unlock, simply press the buttons in sequence. Now, as images are coming in, you'll see them appear in the project view, and the connection icon in the upper right will flash green. By default, the images are displayed in chronological order. If you like to shoot in continuous drive, it can be easier to view the images in the event view. Simply tap the Event View button up at the top. Photos are automatically grouped together by scenes and events. From either view, I can also add a rating or flag an image for later delivery. Thanks for following along, and be sure to visit alphauniverse.com for more.